whatever time of day or night it is for you. Honoring this moment. Opening our hearts to the possibility, to this notion that the sacred, the universally precious, the inherent precious essence of all that is right here and now. Because of circumstances, perhaps worry, sense of pressure, sense of not keeping up, or confusion. Sometimes because of the nature of circumstance and condition, it's hard to imagine that the truly sacred, the truly universally, inherently precious essence is not here. It's somewhere that we have to get to. But in the sacred Mountain Sangha community, we're even held within the name, this notion of the sacred mountain. And that wherever we are, whatever time it is, even though it might not feel like it, we are actually sitting on the sacred mountain. We're being supported by the non-coming, non-going, deathless, luminous, sacred essence of consciousness. So welcome everyone. Let's begin by honoring what is worthy of honor, what links us all. We all have this trust, or we wouldn't be here, trust that there's a possibility of waking up, possibility of growing beyond seeing through our confusion, our difficulty. We all share that faith in the possibility of awakening. If we didn't, I don't think we would probably be at a meeting like this. So beginning, you have the link, I think, in the chat, but in case some of you have come later, perhaps that link can be put in again for the chanting book, little chanting booklet. Thank you. At the top of page 3, on the page called Refuges and Precepts, this first line is the honoring of the Buddha. That's honoring the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammasambuddhassa. As we're letting be carried on the out-breath, these sounds, as they resonate through the body, each of us has the opportunity to celebrate, however we conceive or feel it, celebrate this centrality, this precious inherent refuge of being awake, this mysterious given. It was given. It's here underlying our life, capacity to know what posture we're in. How do we know we're sitting or standing or lying down? How do we know what mood we're in, whether we're excited or just barely holding it together? What is it that recognizes that wisdom faculty, that conscious capacity to know and respond? It's called Buddha. That knowing can get entangled, distorted, and confused with our biases and assumptions, but the essence is always there according to the wise one. So when we honor the Buddha, we celebrate this knowing, we celebrate this potentiality in trust. The Buddha said, this is our nature. We all can awaken to it fully because it's our true nature. When we recognize and let go of these views, opinions, entanglements that cloud our vision. So we'll chant that at the top of page 3 in Pali and in English. And then we'll go to page 4 and chant the qualities of the Triple Jewel, this ancient list of the qualities of the refuge of the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha that appears in all the Buddhist traditions. That's known as a protection chant. Because when we align with that which is truly trustworthy, awareness of the way things are, befriending again and again, befriending what is skillful, that this is what generates safety. It's what plugs into auspicious blessing for ourselves and all the space and beings around us. So let's begin with that recitation. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble and perfectly enlightened one. Homage to the blessed, noble and perfectly enlightened one. Homage to the blessed, noble and perfectly enlightened one. Yetipiso bhagava alahang samma sambuddho vijachalana sampan sukato lokavidu anuttaro apurisatama sarati sattha devamanu samnang buddho bhagavati savaka Bhagavata Dhammo Santitiko Akaliko Ehipasiko Panayiko Pachatang Veditabo and Yuhiti Supatipano Bhagavato Savakasam Ko Uchupatipano Savaka Sangho Nyaya Patipano Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Samiji Patipano Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Yatitang Chuttari Purisa Yugania Tapurisa Pukala Esa Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Ahunayo, Pahunayo, Dokinayo, Anjali, Karaniyo, Hanu, Taram, Punya, Ketang, Lokasati. savoring the somatic sense of our body being supported by ground, held within awareness, savoring how it feels after we've honored what is worthy of honor. The Buddha taught that generates blessings because we're plugging in, connecting to measureless principles, wisdom, that which is aware. It's not limited, it's wide open. The knowing, listening nature, the Buddhic, wise and compassionate nature, which is our refuge, it's measureless. So when we make a sound honoring Buddha, honoring that measureless nature, we partake of that energy. That's the technology, the energetic of recitation. It's not just recitation using the mouth and the breath and the body, but it's recitation combined with a quality of heart which honors, which is reverential. It means we can't be reverential if we're busy manipulating something. Reverential is a open-hearted, listening into the profundity of this moment. And when we do that, we merge with, we connect with this listening nature, knowing nature, this aware nature, within which our body is appearing, all our moods, the sense of the world, inside and outside, it all appears. Sometimes when we do our recitation, we're not, it's not puja, we're not honoring the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, our mantras, Tanisha and I like to joke about it, sometimes our mantras, oh, it's too difficult, oh, it's too difficult, oh, it's too difficult. When we're lost in our moods, we have these inner stories and scenarios. We're resonating with that. It's very limiting. It's not that we hate that, not that we're trying to destroy that, but we're learning to recognize those voices, patternings, and in skillful moments. That's why the Buddha offered this technology of upliftment and blessing. It's the principle behind chanting, behind recitation. It's not necessary to understand all the syllables, all the words, the sounds which are being expressed with this heart of honoring. And even if we don't feel like honoring, even if we feel like, oh gosh, I don't know, do we have to do this again? I'm not really sure this works. Even honesty as we're chanting about that inner recognition of those moods, that's a deep honoring. That's a deep alignment with honesty and truth. It's not that we have to fabricate some grand emotion, but it's in our recitations, we're coming back to that place of reverence for how it is. And if how it is not easy, well, then we're also learning to honor that with deep listening. I would also like to chant on page, the bottom of page 7, the reflections on universal well-being. Just some phrases to remind the heart of these inherent divine abidings of kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity, peace. These are inherent tones that we can use and access that are natural, but these phrases help us remember that possibility. Now let us chant the reflections on universal well-being. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. When they act upon intention, all beings are the owners of their action and inherit its results. Their future is born from such action, companion to such action, and its results will be their home. All actions with intention, be they skillful or harmful, of such acts they will be the heirs. And finishing with the second mantra on page 3, is honoring Kuan Yin, invoking the Bodhisattva, who listens at ease to the sounds of the world, who's vowed to respond to every prayer. That deep listening. We connect with Kuan Yin in the depths of our heart. That inconceivable being, awakened being who vows to alleviate suffering and bring all beings back to our true sacred nature. Namo Kuan Yin Pu Sai Na Mo 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 Kuan Yin Pu Sai. Inviting this body-mind to a few minutes of returning to the stillness. few minutes of formal meditation using the posture if we're sitting, the sitting posture, or whatever posture we're in, to be an anchor for establishing ourselves in clarity. With a few long in-breaths and out-breaths, we find this body. Remember that it's surrounded by an ocean of vitality that sustains us. We breathe in what the trees breathe out. What we breathe out, the trees breathe in. Breathing in long, receiving that life-giving, vitalizing principle. Letting it permeate, bless every organ, cell, all the tissues in the body. On that long, slow out-breath, as we consciously soften from the crown of our head down through the body, soften any unnecessary holding, the forehead, the jaw, the shoulders, upper back, lower back, belly, legs, hands, feet. Few long, slow breaths. Remembering this resonance of the body, which the Buddha suggested as a first foundation of mindfulness, as the go-to place because of its steady, slow vibration. Go-to place of remembering, realigning with this Buddhic refuge, this refuge of awareness. These long, slow in-breaths and out-breaths can be softened and just return to a natural breathing as we steady the body-mind. The mind, the quality of attention is steadied by staying with this breathing in and breathing out, and the body is comforted as it's enveloped by the mind. Body-mind connected. Wherever in the body we recognize that we're breathing, maybe it's the sensations at the nostrils, or for some it's a sensation at the chest. For others it might be the rise and fall of the belly, the abdomen. Wherever it's easeful for us to be with the breathing, that sensation, the actual sensation of the body breathing. Allow our attention to listen into that. Be with the mysterious quality. That in-breath is changing every moment. Then it becomes a pause. The end of the in-breath, which then gives rise to the sensations of out-breath. We can use a phrase or a word just to help us remember what we're doing. Ajahn Chah liked to use the word Bhutto, which is the Buddha. But the Buddha that's in here, Buddha on the in-breath, To on the out-breath. Just a hint of a sound that dissolves but reminds the heart just to stay with that deep inner knowing, inner listening that's receiving the simplicity. Nothing to figure out, just be with that simple simplicity of breathing in and out. On an out breath, relaxing and allowing the awareness to expand, and notice the whole of the body. Actually, from the crown of our head to the soles of our feet, the sensation of the whole body is appearing within awareness. Breathing in and relaxing, sensing how the body is bathing in awareness. Breathing into any area that's tense or sluggish or uncomfortable. As we breathe out, allow the awareness to widen, to bless and notice the tissue around that discomfort. With the whole body within awareness, all the different elements can then homogenize, they can balance. Just for a few minutes, breathing in and out, calming this body-mind. Each out breath is soothing. If we're feeling sluggish, and give a little more attention to the in-breath, which is the brightening, vitalizing dimension of breathing. The out-breath is the calming, soothing. Skill with being with the breathing, we're tuning up our body-mind. In the Dharma reflection for today, I would like to take this opportunity to reflect on a very important passage in the Shurangama Sutra, a primary text in the Mahayana tradition. A passage that is going to contemplate the two fundamental roots. Two fundamental roots. Roots, R-O-O-T-S, roots. In terms of the image of a tree, the magnificence of the tree, its branches, its fruit, its flowers, its color, its form, emerges, is supported by that foundational principle, is all from the root. And this recollection of the two primary fundamental roots also has its beautiful resonance in the Theravada tradition. From the Pali Canon, the Theravada tradition, which Dennis and I were trained in with Luang Por Chah and the Thai forest monastic meditative lineage. This notion of the two fundamental roots also has its appearance in a text that those of you who studied with us know. We refer to it a lot, but a pithy 10-line text called the Mula Sutta. Mula means root. The discourse on roots. The Shurangama means indestructible. Shurangama means ultimately durable. This particular teaching and our introduction to this and the significance of this particular teaching happened because of the profound impact on our lives of Master Hsuan Hua, the great Chinese meditation master. Who taught us about Avalokiteshvara, the Kuan Yin, Dharmas, the nature of the Bodhisattva. And I'm studying now at the university that he founded, Dharma Realm Buddhist University. And something that was very important to Master Hua, that he, profound teaching I got from him was that the two traditions, the so-called northern and southern schools, or the Mahayana, the great vehicle, Maha means great, Yana means vehicle, the great vehicle, this Bodhisattva commitment to awakening, but to awakening all beings. It was very important to Master Hua that these Mahayana teachings, and also the southern school, the Theravada teaching, the way of the elders, that have as their inspiration many of the texts in the Pali Canon. Master Hua thought it was very important that these two traditions be mutually supportive, not competitive. The world's so full already of this vying against that, me getting better than you. And in the Dhamma, the Buddha had this notion of skillful means. There's all sorts of Dharma doors and skillful means that the Buddha taught, but there's all of those skillful doorways arise in response to what is needed in a particular moment. But all of these teachings emerge from the awakened heart. Master Hua wanted us to, he said, you should bring the two traditions together into a single piece. The northern and southern traditions must unite, and then Buddhism has a future. This is your mission, he said. Do not assume that the great vehicle is superior to the Theravada or vice versa. Have no limits. The teaching has no limits. Let your mind be limitless. This return to the limitless, clear, wise, and compassionate mind. This is what we're cultivating as seekers of the truth, as disciples of the awakened one, disciples of the Buddha. So I'll read two translations and just notice with translations, some of the language can set off reactions. So just notice. So I'll give the first translation. This is the Buddha speaking in the Shurangama Sutra. The reason those who cultivate cannot accomplish unsurpassed bodhi, awakening, but instead reach the level of a sound hearer or of one enlightened to conditions, or become accomplished in outside ways as heaven dwellers or as demon kings or as members of the retinue of demons, is that they do not know the two fundamental roots and are mistaken and confused in their cultivation. They are like one who cooks sand in the hope of creating savory delicacies. They may pass through as many eons as there are motes of dust, but in the end they will not obtain what they want. What are the two? Ananda, the Buddha speaking to Ananda, his beloved attendant. What are the two, these two roots, Ananda? The first is the root of beginningless birth and death, which is the mind that seizes upon conditions, and that you and all living beings now make use of, taking it to be the self-nature. The second is the primal, pure substance of the beginningless, awakened nirvana. It is the primal, bright essence of consciousness that can bring forth all conditions. Because of conditions, you consider it to be lost. Living beings lose sight of the original brightness. Therefore, though they use it to the end of their days, they are unaware of it, and without intending to, they enter the various destinies. That was the translation from a wonderful Bhikshuni, very wise woman from this Master Hua's tradition called Bhikshuni Hung Chur. She's a formidable practitioner, elderly now. A more recent translation of the same, and then I'm going to talk about these two fundamental roots. This is a more recent translation. People who undertake a spiritual practice, but who fail to realize the ultimate enlightenment. People such as hearers of the teaching, the solitary sages, as well as celestial beings and others, such as demon kings and members of the demons' retinues, who follow wrong paths, all fail because they do not understand two fundamentals. and are mistaken and confused in their practice. They're like someone who cooks sand, hoping to prepare a delicious meal. Even if the sand were cooked for eons, numberless as motes of dust, no meal would result from it. Ananda, what are the two fundamentals? The first is the mind that is the basis of death and rebirth, and that has continued since time without beginning. This mind is dependent on perceived objects. And it is this mind that you and all beings make use of, and that each of you consider to be your own nature. The second fundamental is full awakening, which also has no beginning. It is the original and pure essence of nirvana. It is the original understanding, the real nature of consciousness. All conditioned phenomena arise from it, and yet it is among those phenomena that beings lose track of it. They have lost track of this fundamental understanding, though it is active in them all day long. And because they remain unaware of it, they make the mistake of entering the various destinies. To review, the reason those who cultivate, said the Buddha, don't reach full awakening, but instead reach another level. What do you mean, another level? Well, whatever we imagine ourselves to be, that's what happens when we get caught in the limitation. We imagine ourselves to be this or that. Whatever we imagine ourselves to be is true maybe for a moment, but it keeps changing. We imagine ourselves to be happy. In a moment of attachment, we lean on that, what the Buddha calls become that. Then when that feeling of well-being shifts and changes to distress, the heart feels destabilized. Those who cultivate can accomplish perfect awakening, instead reach the level, the Buddha is talking about different levels of awakening, and then, or as heaven dwellers, we might feel like we're in a heavenly realm, whether one believes in heavenly realms or not. When we attach, even psychologically, we can relate to this. When we attach to a harmonious feeling, when everything is just right, it is a heavenly realm. The humans have the capacity to touch into a heavenly realm, but also a hellish realm. When we feel hemmed in by pain or anger or fire, everything scorches or seems so remote and frozen. What here is called demon kings is what's called the asuras, is those beings who are powerful but are caught up in violence and anger. The Buddha talked about spiritual beings who have this kind of power. Combined with an arrogance and a contentious, violent, competitive nature. We can relate to that in the world. We can relate to that in ourselves when we're vying for our place, and can get insensitive where we knock others out of the way, get what I want. We sometimes see this manifesting in the world of cutthroat business or the world of power politics. Demon kings. The reason why we end up in some destiny, that we imagine ourselves to be this or that, is that we do not know the two fundamental roots and are mistaken and confused in our cultivation. So the Buddha is saying that there's two roots. The New Translation calls two fundamentals. I like to keep the word root because of its living That metaphor, the Buddha used metaphors a lot. That tree of life has its root. When the tree is cut from its root, it's lost that source of vitality, source of life. They're like one who cooks sand. Imagine cooking sand. We have this hope of awakening. We're making all this effort. We got the fire really turned up. Maybe we even have our seasonings that we believe in. But if we are cooking sand, the Buddha said, no matter how long or much effort we put into cooking sand, you don't get a meal. You don't get a savory delicacy. Sometimes our spiritual practice has a lot of vigor in it. But if it's not guided by understanding, it's like cooking sand. In the Zen tradition, they call it polishing a brick, hoping to get a mirror. Don't bother me. What are you doing? I'm doing my practice. I'm making a mirror. You can polish a brick, as they say, till the cows come home, but that brick don't become a mirror. So those are powerful images. So then the Buddha says, well, what are these two roots? The first is the root of beginningless birth and death. Birth and death, the sense of getting there and losing it, being born and then aging and dying. What is the root? What gives rise to all this experience and this whole realm of suffering, birth and death? It's the mind that seizes upon conditions, this mind that takes what? The body to be me, takes a mood when it's all hopeless. Oh gosh, it's just too difficult. I can't keep up. There's too much happening. It's what can I do? These forces are. That's actually something that's appearing through the mind, but this discriminative mind, what's called the sixth consciousness, the mind that can identify this mood, it takes it to be me. Then we're born. We become in that hellish realm or that hungry ghost realm. Or then if we react with anger in that asuric, that demon king realm of throwing our tantrum. It's this mind that seizes upon conditions and that you and all living beings now make use of, taking it to be the self-nature, taking it to be me. That's a root, that's a fundamental root that is important. Not that we have to do something about it yet. Buddhists just look at how we take when this discriminating mind can identify something that's me. That's what's called the root of birth and death. What's the second root? The primal pure substance of the beginningless Bodhi Nirvana. What is that? The second root is this primal, this original, pure, awakened nature. It's our awareness. We lose track of our awareness when we're so busy attaching to what's moving through the awareness. Right now, the sound of Kittisaro's voice is moving through the awareness. You might think, oh, it's a good talk. Or, oh, God, I don't know. He's looking a bit old. I think he's maybe putting too much effort in that university. I'm not sure. We can have opinions about what's moving through the awareness, the talk, but whatever one thinks, good or bad, interesting or not, whatever experience and sounds and perceptions we're having now are happening within this root, this ground, this fundamental of awareness. This is the second root, very important. The primal pure substance of the beginningless. That awareness at its core, at its depth, it's not an object. Every object, every sight and sound comes and goes. But this ultimate subjectivity is not beginning or ending. It's called deathless. It is the primal bright essence of consciousness. It's the essence of this faculty of knowingness, listening, wakefulness. Because of conditions, you consider it to be lost. That's important. What does that mean? Well, this is what's called Buddha nature, enlightened nature, inherent awakened nature. Because of conditions, you consider it lost. Well, don't we do that? Conditions when we don't feel so good, when we've not been very mindful, and we actually told some fibs, and then we're thinking, oh God, I have to make up for that. In those moments, even though we're using the awakened nature all the time, because of those conditions, we consider it lost. And what do? We project it forward. No, I got to get back to it. I got to get there. Or when I get rid of this shameful lust, or this petty mind, I mean, it's humiliating. I got to get rid of that. Not realizing that the lustful mind, the scattered mind, the shameful mind are arising and ceasing within this ever-present second root, this essence of consciousness. Because of conditions, you consider it to be lost. Living beings lose sight of the original brightness. We lose sight of this primal ground of being. Though they use it to the end of their days, we're always using it, just like a fish is always in water. We're in this awakened ground. What the Buddha calls, in this Shurangama Sutra, he calls it the womb of awakening. Tathagata Garbha. Garbha means womb, the primordial matrix, context. We're so fascinated by content, by what's moving through, and we stick to that we've lost touch with this primal, original, inherent ground, this matrix, this womb within which everything is manifesting. Though they use it to the end of their days, they are unaware of it, and without intending to, they enter the various destinies. In our practice. So what is polishing a brick, hoping to get a mirror? What is cooking sand? Hoping that if we grab onto a condition, like a subtle feeling of peace, or a moment of feeling good, or a moment of praise, no matter how much we squeeze that, it's going to shift. It doesn't turn into all these sights and sounds and moments of experience. By nature are ephemeral. They don't belong to us. Yes, they're a wondrous part of the true nature. But when we take that to be me, we cling to praise or blame or a happy feeling. That's like cooking sand, hoping to find an enduring meal. But when we just notice, that's why the path is about understanding how birth and death, how when we grasp at anything, clinging, it generates birth and death. But when we start to honor that every sound, every sight, as we honor this refuge in deep listening, each sound, like the sound of my voice, appears and dissolves back into a silence, not a dead silence, but a luminous, listening, vibratory ground of silence that can bring forth everything. This This silent knowing, listening, is that second root. In the Theravada, in the Mula Sutta, those 10 lines, the first line is rooted in desire, said the Buddha, are all things. The mind that doesn't know its own heart just sees something, and then the world appears. It's not evil, it's just that we're so preoccupied with objects, tangibles. But halfway through, and the sixth, out of that desire comes the whole world. But the way home, the sixth step is that I'll just read through. Rooted in desire, friend, are all things. Born of attention are all things. Arising on contact are all things. Converging on feeling are all things. Headed by concentration are all things. This is not the concentration that frees us. This is when we get fixated. Remember, the Buddha taught there's skillful and unskillful concentration. We all have concentration. It's just sometimes not the liberating type. When we are really convinced that we're in a terrible place, we have concentration. We're fixated on the worry, the doubt, the entangling passion that's dragging us around, the compulsive behavior. That's what's being referred to. But then the beginning of the way home is ruled by mindfulness are all things. Surmountable by wisdom are all things. When we're mindful, we start to notice whatever's moving through the heart, whatever feeling right now. Wisdom, whatever opinion we have about ourselves or others, our wisdom sees it for what it is. Those feelings are coming and going. Yielding deliverance as essence are all things. The mind. The Buddha is saying, whatever the circumstance, even this world with all its challenges and crises as we're experiencing right now, when we touch into the worries, the doubts, the realities of what's happening to our climate, our world, when we breathe in and notice that those sensations, those perceptions, those truths are arising and ceasing within this deeper ground. That's still, that's beginningless, that's mysteriously filled with endless potentiality. Merging in the deathless are all things, all this separation of me, you, here, there. When we notice each thought keeps arising and ceasing and returning to the listening, all separateness ceases. And we realize all this me, you, here, there. Yes, that's true, but it's all held within a deep, unified ground. When we begin to touch into this, to not just stay stuck on the surface objects of life, but start to allow ourselves to notice change, to notice things dissolving back into this heart of listening, this what's called returning to the great center. Then we start to naturally sense our deep kinship with all that is, all beings, all forms, with Mother Earth herself. We're of one family because all of this is rooted in this sacred ground of the heart. The last line, nibbana pariyosana sabe dhamma, culminating in nibbana or all things. All so-called separate things have their homecoming back in the heart. So friends, let's contemplate these two fundamental roots. The grasping mind that takes this and that to be me, as we start to patiently contemplate that arising and ceasing, we begin to open up to this underlying, totally trustworthy, sacred nature. The ever-present listening, our Buddha refuge, what we can also call Kuan Yin. So thank you for listening today, taking the time to be with me. It's a real honor for me to have the chance to share some of what I'm working on and studying. Something that is vital to the Mahayana Theravada tradition, to efficacious spiritual practice. There are many blessings. May those blessings, may we feel them, may they touch and permeate through every cell in our body. As we breathe in and out, may we share them with each other, our Sangha family. And may we widen the sharing with the wish, may all beings share in our goodness. Just like dropping a pebble into a pool, sin effortlessly ripples in all directions. So let's have the thought of sharing, may the blessings of our lives naturally, as we relax on each out-breath, emanate and bless, share with all beings above, below, and all around. Wishing may all beings be well. May all beings be freed from suffering. May all beings realize nibbana, finishing with Kuan Yin's mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Om Mani Padme